I guess we're going to get started right now. First of all, before I say a few words, I'm Mayor Brian Waller, the mayor of Piscataway Township. Thank you for coming out to one of the best senior citizen centers in the state of New Jersey. Come on, let's give a round of applause. All right, thank you. Thank you. There's a reason why we're a Money magazine nationally, because a lot of it has to do with the programming we have for our seniors here at Township Wide and our beautiful community center next door. If you haven't had a chance to visit the community center after the press conference, feel free to stroll over there and take a look at the building. I would like to acknowledge some of the officials that are here from the township governing body. We have our councilman at large, Kapil Shaw, 3rd Ward Councilwoman Sharon Carmichael, 2nd Ward Councilman Dennis Espinoza, 1st Ward Councilman Frank Earn, and the rest of everybody else up here is going to be saying a few words. And I believe Director Rios from the Board of County Commissioners. I want to thank Congressman Pallone personally for what he did yesterday down in Washington. I guess many people don't know what transpired down there yesterday. And through the committee that he serves on, the Energy and Commerce Committee, they had a markup session about bills there, and he really fought hard. I got a lot of phone calls from mayors around the country yesterday, staffers thanking you that you're lucky that you have a member of Congress that really gets it when it calls preemption, where the members of the House wanted to take away the abilities of counties and municipalities to basically have rights over their municipal rights of way. And they want to do a preemption and say the federal government can say what goes on in municipal rights of way. And Congressman Pallone did the right thing and was protecting our local residents throughout New Jersey and the country on that. And I want to thank you, Congressman, for doing that. Now, the real reason why we're here is because there's obviously many of the people that have been seen in the news is to talk about raising the debt ceiling, about possibly the federal government defaulting if it doesn't get raised. I remember distinctly back in 2013, November of 2013, when there was a big argument again about that. And I had an opportunity at that time to be invited to the White House with a meeting with Vice President Biden and 6 other mayors nationally. And the meeting took place just outside the Oval Office in the Roosevelt Room, talking about the implications if the federal government would default and the broad implications. So here we are 10 years later, and we're still talking about the same thing. Now, I want to also tell you what happened in 2013, 2014. In Piscataway Township, that year, we took a 30% hit in federal funding, a 30% hit. There was an article just this week in the Wall Street Journal talking about the broad implications of if the debt service is not raised. And it talked about that towns and cities and organizations that are here will expect anywhere from 25 to 30% hit if the debt ceiling is not raised. And I think that's it. So, and then if you take Social Security off the table and defense spending, then that number rises to 50%. Now, these are programmings that everyday citizens rely on, not just here in Piscataway, not just here in Middlesex County, but across the great country of ours. Whether it's the SNAPS program or programming for seniors or direct funding for fixing roads and bridges here in our state or in our town, a whole host of programs. And we're going to talk about veterans programs, Department of Education funding. So there is a lot of skin in the game on decisions that are going to take place over the course of the next month in Washington. And this has very broad implications, whether it's going to raise the interest rates on young couples trying to buy a house for the first time, or an aging senior who needs care service, or potentially impacting the VA clinic here that we fought very hard for, and Congressman Pallone was able to get through the Department of Veterans Affairs here in Piscataway. So this is not a peripheral, holistic argument that we see in the press. This comes down to everyday living that affects all of our lives. And that's why it's critical that the general public understands that this is not some beltway chatter. This is actually real life and death. whether people are going to be able to afford to put food on their table and things like that. So this is very serious business out there. So with that, I want to introduce Congressman. Am I introducing you first, and then we're going to the next speakers? He doesn't, or do you want to back clean up? No, he's pretty good. I've seen him in action in the House hearings down here. He's pretty good at that. All right. Well, you know what? Why don't you come on up, Congressman? We're always welcoming Congressman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate what the mayor said on so many levels, but as you know, he's always been involved also with the nationwide mayors organization. And one of the reasons that we're here today, and I have to be honest, I would much prefer and usually come to Piscataway to talk about positive things rather than negative things. But we have to talk about this because it's real. And as Mayor Wallace said, it really affects local government and services that are provided, which is one of the reasons that I want to be here, because I know that the mayor and council and the county commissioners, with Ron, who will speak next, they do such a great job, really, in trying to help people locally, whether it's veterans, whether it's seniors. We're in the senior center. They're always out front in trying to make sure that government services are provided to constituents at a local level. But that can't happen if there's significant cuts at the federal level to all the different things that Piscataway, for example, provides. And that's what's the danger here. And as the mayor said, we're not talking pie in the sky. There are things that are involved here internationally. For example, one of the big things, the president is now at this G7 summit, and one of the things he's doing is to try to make everyone understand that we're not going to default, because one of the dangers if you default is that the other countries may not rely on our currency anymore, right? The Chinese in Beijing, for example, the Communist Party is trying to push their currency as an alternative to the dollar. And I know this sounds like, way out there, but the fact of the matter is we benefit from the fact that the US dollar is the currency that the world uses, and we don't want it replaced by the Beijing Chinese currency because of all the damages that impacts. But the reason this is real is because even though there are negotiations going on now between the House Republicans who, brought this on, and the president and all the parties in the House and the Senate, and there's been some positive signs that this may be resolved by next week. We don't know that for sure. And the Treasury Secretary has said that the default could happen as early as June 1st, which is only 10 days from now. And just yesterday, the right-wing element, they call them the Freedom Caucus. I hate to use the name because I don't think they're freedom about anything, but the right-wingers, about 30 of them in the Republican Freedom Caucus, actually called on the speaker, the Republican speaker, McCarthy, to stop the negotiations. He said, we don't want any more negotiations. They're afraid that we actually might negotiate a resolution of this with the president and the various party leaders in the House and the Senate. And they don't want that to happen because they want this default act to take place. It's just unbelievable. So what we're talking about today, when we talk about these impacts on people, on local government, are basically two things. One is what I call the Default Act, which is a bill that the Republicans passed in the House a couple of weeks ago, which has a 22% cut across the board in all discretionary spending. We're talking about that. And then we're talking about the negative impacts of the actual default itself. God forbid that it occurred. And so that's what I just wanted to detail, just so you understand why this is so important and why we're here today. So let me just give you some examples. The bill, the Default Act, the one that they passed a couple weeks ago, this is the one that says that unless you make these cuts, right, 22% across the board, then we will not lift the debt ceiling and pay our bills. And all we're talking about here today is paying our bills. The Constitution says that the government has to pay its bills. This is not new spending. This is not new stuff. This is stuff that we've already appropriated and agreed to do, that the Republican leadership in the House is saying we don't want to pay the bills. So they're saying, unless you do these things, we're not going to pay our bills and we're going to default. So, let me just give you an example. Local law enforcement. You know how Piscataway and other towns in Middlesex County have always applied on a regular basis for the COPS grant and the SAFER grants for extra police or fire equipment, whatever, right? We estimate that would be slashed overall by $17 billion between federal law enforcement, courts, prisons, other things that impact public safety. But most notably, because I want to bring it down to the local level, the things like the COPS and the SAFER grants. We always have our thing at the Fire Academy where we talk about how towns apply for this. Veterans Affairs, 20% cut to Veterans Affairs will reduce access to outpatient care at medical facilities. The mayor talked about the clinic in Piscataway by approximately 218,000 visits, meaning less care and worse health outcomes, right? We work so hard. Ron, who's going to speak, is so much concerned about Veterans Affairs, and the county does so much, but the money just won't be there to provide these visits at the outpatient clinics. The thing that's the most disturbing to me is healthcare and nutrition programs, right? So a 22% cut to Medicaid, for example, would mean that millions of people would lose their health insurance under Medicaid. The cut to SNAP, which is the food assistance, we call it food stamps, but it's called SNAP now. There's something like 43,000 women, infants, and children just in New Jersey alone would lose their food assistance. I could go on. This isn't an exhaustive list. One of the things, because I know we're going to hear from the superintendent of schools, I'm just thinking of some of the speakers that have come after that probably develop this a little more, is that if you remember, President Biden put forth this program that allowed students to not have to pay, I think, up to $10,000 or more if they received if they were a lower income, for everyone, like a $10,000 that they could forgive of their student loans. I'd like to see more, but at least it's something, right? That's eliminated completely under this bill. Now, that's just the bill, right? That they're saying, if you don't do this, then we're going to default. But then let's talk about the default itself. The problem with the default itself is that it just destroys the economy, right? So, what would that mean in New Jersey? Well, we assume, again, a lot of this is based on economic figures. I can give you the source of it. But they estimate, this is from the Joint Economic Committee, that it would increase lifetime mortgage costs for the typical homeowner in New Jersey by $63,000. It would raise the cost of a new car loan for the typical American by $800. Not to mention stock market meltdown. In other words, if you actually default, now we're not talking about the bill, but if you actually default, interest rates would go sky high. People are already worried about interest rates. They would go even higher. People would just lose their jobs because the economy would just, it could usher in, the level of recession or even depression like we've never seen. So I don't want to keep going on because I want you to hear from the others. But what I really want to stress is that this is just a manufactured crisis. There's no crisis here. You incur bills, you pay your bills. That's what the Constitution says. There's no reason to hold the government hostage or risk a default or an economic meltdown because we've done this, as the mayor said several times. When Trump was president and the Democrats were in the majority, we raised the debt ceiling, I think, several times. Not even an issue. And all we're saying is that the same thing should be done here. If possible, raise the debt ceiling, pay our bills. That's what we should do. That's what we always do. But if that's not possible and we have to negotiate something, the president negotiates it, that's fine too. We'll see where that goes. But don't tell us, as these right-wingers have done on the Republican side with the Freedom Caucus, that we shouldn't negotiate. We shouldn't try to resolve this crisis and just let it go. That's just totally unacceptable. So I'm going to now ask Ron Rios, who's the director of the County Board of Commissioners, to come up. again, I always talk about how Middlesex County, and they use Piscataway as a local government, but how Middlesex County always uses every dollar they have for the benefit of the public and cares about the average citizen. And that's the type of thing that's threatened here, which is why I'm so glad that I'm here in Piscataway and I have Ron to come up and talk to you. Come on up. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Congressman. Good morning, and thank you, Congressman, for inviting me here today. I wish this press conference wasn't necessary, but it certainly is. We work hard at the county level to ensure the families and individuals who live in Middlesex County and call it home have access to the program and services that they need. But so many of those vital programs and services are really now at risk. And there's a possibility that they could be eliminated due to the proposed budget cuts by the Republicans in Washington. For instance, in a time when food insecurity is a huge issue across our nation, and here in New Jersey, here in Middlesex County, the proposed cuts to the federal budget will eliminate food assistance for at least 43,000 women, infants, and children in New Jersey. They will also threaten access to food assistance for 11,000 people aged 50 to 55 here in New Jersey. These cuts will place an even bigger burden on Replenish, which is Middlesex County's food distribution organization that last year distributed 4.7 million pounds of food to 160 partner agencies throughout the county. More families, including children, will be at risk of going to bed hungry at night. That's a sad, sad situation. On the education front, the proposed cuts will eliminate preschool and childcare for more than 9,000 children in New Jersey, robbing them of access to a strong academic foundation and making it more difficult for their parents to work and support their family. The proposed education cuts will also make college more expensive for at least 150,000 students in New Jersey, meaning that in a time when college costs are at record levels and parents are already working so hard to give their children a chance at a college degree, that goal may soon be out of reach for many working class families in Middlesex County. For our seniors, these proposed cuts will put health benefits at risk for thousands in Middlesex County who rely on Medicare, Medicaid, or Veterans Affairs health coverage. And we take it serious for providing services and programs for our seniors, and especially our veterans who fought so hard to preserve democracy. That's a sad, sad state of affairs. The cuts will also threaten the retirement savings of thousands who are near retirement, eliminating $20,000 from the retirement portfolio. The proposed cuts will also reduce access to outpatient care at Veterans Affairs medical facilities by approximately 218,900 visits in New Jersey. Our veterans, as I said, have served our nation with honor and dignity, risking their lives to defend our freedom and democracy. They deserve to be treated with that same honor and dignity that they have, because they have earned it. These are only a few of the many cuts that the Republicans have proposed that will have a devastating impact on families, children, seniors in Middlesex County. Congressman Pallone has been a tireless advocate for the people of his district, and never has that been more evident than now. I don't know how he does it, because he's always here in Middlesex County, and we really appreciate your hard work for all our residents in Middlesex County. And so on behalf of the entire Board of County Commissioners and the people of Middlesex County, I want to thank Congressman Frank Pallone for fighting for us all the time. Thank you, Congressman.
You know what? We're going to, since the County Commissioner Director Rios was talking a lot about the veterans, we're going to have Joel Bloom from Post 2 211 out of Sayreville. Come on up and say a couple words. He represents the American Legion Post here in Middlesex County, and he was gracious enough to have Post 261 Commander Ron Delicki here with him here as well. And by the way, I want to put a little commercial in, Congressman. We're having our Memorial Day parade here, organized by the American Legion Post, and Colleen Pagano has been doing a great job of getting everything together. It'll be our first parade since the pandemic. So, go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Joe Bloom. Not only am I the post commander of Sayreville, I'm also the county commander here in Middlesex County. I'd like to share with you some shocking numbers concerning our veterans. It has been reported that 22 veterans a day commit suicide. That's 22 veterans a day commit suicide because they're not getting the help they need. They have no place to turn to. There's no facilities to help them. Besides from that, we have thousands and thousands of veterans that are homeless. They just can't cope with society. We have several posts here in New Jersey, one in South Amboy and a very large one in Hoboken, that are actually building apartments on their post property to house homeless veterans because they're not getting the support they need. We have veterans that are trying to cope with society but need a little assistance. They need a service dog. You see service dogs all the time now. There is no government agency that provides service dogs. These are provided by private organizations that depend on donations from the public to provide service dogs to veterans who need a little help. The average wait is sometimes 18 to 24 months for them to get a service dog. That long wait adds to that 22 veterans a day that commit suicide. I've been told at times it could take 4 to 6 to 8 to 12 weeks to get an appointment at a VA hospital for a veteran that needs help. What this all means is one simple thing. We need more money to help our veterans, not less money. Every day we go by not helping a veteran adds another veteran to that list of 22 veterans a day that commit suicide. So my goal is to get more money for all these veterans organizations, not less money. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander. We appreciate the frank statements that you just gave. At this point, I'm going to have Dr. Ranelli, our superintendent of schools here in Piscataway Township, come up and say a few words about education at the local level.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank these gentlemen to my right for inviting me here and partnering with the school district at all times for the betterment of not only Piscataway, but society. In Piscataway, we have a very robust preschool program. I'm going to take my time here to talk about preschool. There are a lot of facets of education that rely on funding in many ways, but I'll just take my short time to talk about preschool and the foundation that it sets. Again, we have a very robust preschool program in Piscataway. We service over 520 students who go to our preschools that are funded by the state. Whether it be the Head Start program or the preschool education aid program, preschool is extremely important. It sets that foundation of understanding so many areas of education. We notice a huge achievement gap between students who come to our schools from our preschool program or any preschool program and students who don't. And it's very simple. If you have 1 or 2 years of that teamwork, of that socialization, of that understanding how things work, you're going to be in a better situation of a foundational approach to education. Many school districts have their own preschool programs, and it just makes sense that if they're in their preschool programs and flow into kindergarten and first grade, they're going to have that foundational achievement that they need to be successful. It helps teach interaction, problem solving, teamwork, and really an understanding of socialization. I have 3 children, and a lot of times I get criticized a little bit jokingly because I talk about them too much. Many of you have children, and everyone's path to success is different. But I'll venture to say that the best compliment that I could ever get, and maybe you all as well, is that our children are nice people. Our children are kind. Our children understand how to interact with others. And it's not something that happens just in the home, right? We need to get students out as early as possible, to interact, to understand really how to be a person in society and how they could positively impact their environment. So it's really, really important. The socialization aspect of preschool is extremely critical to when they enter kindergarten and first grade. If they have to take months out of their kindergarten years to really understand and learn how to socialize, it takes away from the education and things that we're trying to teach them in the early months of education. Also, the preschool information and the preschool importance helps parents join the workforce, helps parents really be part of the community, helps them be part of the economy and society, and again, allows their children to go to school. I talk about making decisions now that have a direct impact on society. And this, we won't have to wait 5, 10, 15 years. These dollars have a direct impact on our society today, and in 4 years, and in 8 years, and in 20 years. So I implore whoever's listening, really, we need more money for preschool education, not less.
Thank you, Dr. Morelli. And now we're going to switch gears. We're going to have the Executive Director of New Jersey Citizens Action, Dina Jaboska. Is that how I pronounce it? Close. It should be. Well, listen, in this day and age, as long as people wave with all 5 fingers, that's a good thing.
Well, I think my husband would appreciate you went with that last name. Hi, everyone. I'm Dina Matola Jaborska, and my organization is a statewide advocacy group. And I first want to thank the congressman and everybody and the organizers of this event for inviting me to be here with the other excellent public servants that are here today, and also to acknowledge that Congressman Pallone has really championed so many issues that are important to the people that we serve, which is the low and moderate people of New Jersey. We both advocate and serve across the state people who are lower and moderate income, which is frankly all of us. It's most people. And just wanted to add my voice to others by saying that the House Republican proposal, the debt ceiling proposal, is really a lose, because what it amounts, I said that 3 times because it would lose in 3 ways, which I'll quickly touch on. It just amounts to really economic devastation or economic warfare against the American people. And I'm having a hard time understanding why any member of Congress from New Jersey would align with that when speaking to the 3 Republicans who represent not this district, but different parts of New Jersey, who aligned with that, because it really is devastating, and especially for poor people, and which include, lower income people, which include, many senior citizens and veterans, and of course, especially the very poor. Across the board, cuts to programs is devastating, but it's especially devastating for poor people. And I would just, lift up, I was really appreciating what Commander Bloom said, because really that is also what I wanted to say, which is, we're very aware at Citizen Action that people are on a long list to get rental assistance, to get help with any number of services that, there's waiting lists for, to get relief from student debt, to make themselves whole and pay their bills and progress economically. So the idea that we would then take on cuts, people who are low income or vulnerable would then be less served, is just completely shameful. And really, those are cuts that could have never passed if, just under the light of day. So the fact that they're sort of bundled up in that proposal is just horrible. Also, their proposal protects tax cuts to wealthy people and corporations, including the pharmaceutical companies, which is completely egregious. If we have a problem with debt and we want to solve it, then how about raising revenue by asking wealthy people and wealthy corporations to pay their fair share? And lastly, the congressman did a really great job talking about default and what it means for us. But I'll just add my voice to say that even getting close to default is devastation upon the people upon us and people across America, because it will mean rising interest rates. It means your retirement funds be in jeopardy. It means people can't buy homes. It means that small business owners who are struggling can't get good loans. It's absolutely mind-boggling that the proposal went forward, and we can only hope that the negotiations that House Republicans are having, or the House leader is having with the president, he'll come to his senses, the Republicans will come to their senses and stop advancing these positions that are really harmful, really kind of an economic torpedo against really all of us. And I think, since I'm speaking now to the room and all of you, is just to say that what we really need in New Jersey is all the Republicans to come together with the Democrats who represent us here in New Jersey and align with us, the people, around this issue, because nothing they've done so far is in alignment with what we really need. And I just, again, really appreciate being able to be with you today. Thank you.
And last, we're going to have Brenda Smith, who's one of the members here at the Piscataway Senior Center. Brenda, why don't you come on up?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brenda Smith, and I'm indeed happy to be a proud member of this Senior Citizen Center. I get to meet with many seniors in the community. I get to work in this community on the Civil Rights Board and on the Board of Education. And it's been a wonderful experience to be a senior. I get up and I thank God every morning for having attained senior citizen status. But when I think about these cuts that are being proposed for the senior citizen population, it's really discouraging and dismaying for the fact that seniors are the ones who have actually paid and have worked as the backbone of this country. That's right. Senior citizens have had jobs, they have contributed to the community, they own homes, they paid their taxes, they raised their children, they served in our military. I myself, my husband served 20 years in the Army and was able to, in his retirement years when he got ill, he was able to go to the Veterans Memorial Home to serve out the rest of his illness, and they helped him. We have contributed greatly to this country, and the fact that they would seek to reduce the benefits to people who have worked hard. We here in this center have the benefit of coming to this center. But there are many seniors who are unable to get here, who are in need of services, the very services that this program is seeking, this default is seeking to cut. How dare they want to cut and take food out of the mouths of senior citizens or anyone, whether they're poor or whether they're disadvantaged or whether they're seniors. We have paid, and it's time for us to get our return on investment. We have invested, we've dedicated our lives, and it's totally unfair for them to seek to reduce any benefit that we would have, especially at the time when they're most vulnerable, by cutting Medicaid for the poor and Medicare for us. We have a growing population of seniors who, when they're ill and when they can't help take care of themselves, their children have to step in. Well, that reducing their benefits, reducing what they're getting, is going to only pose a burden for those people who have to take care of them. That's right. And so it's just abhorrent that they would even consider something like this. So in consideration, a default should never be continued. We must pay our bills. And we shouldn't do it on the backs of veterans. We shouldn't do it on the backs of our children for pre-K or any other educational institution in which they're struggling to pay their bills. And they definitely should not do it on the backs of senior citizens. And to those who want to cut, I say, shame on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. I just want to explain the genesis of where we were, how we got here today, because I distinctly remember being interviewed by the Washington correspondent for Politico back in December of 2017 on comments about the $2 trillion tax cut, which was, I dubbed, and it was in big bold headlines out of Washington magazine, the Screw New Jersey bill. And I just view this whole talk about the debt service not raising up is another way of some Washington representatives trying to screw New Jersey again. It's bad enough we got screwed on the SALT bill, And we're a donor state, as the congressman knows. These other states contribute hardly any revenue to the treasury. And yet the only programs that we do get at the federal level here in New Jersey, now they're trying to play ball and cut them. Whether it's our outpatient clinics for the veterans or many other senior programs or programs for young children coming up, it's just wrong. It's just totally wrong to allow that to happen. So, Congressman, I'm going to turn the mic over to you before you let me go off on a tangent here.
No, it's important because, I really wanted to stress, and that's what you all have, about the impact on local government and the impact on just people in general. All right. Thank you all. Thank everybody for being here. I appreciate it.